my show. I talked to you yesterday. Good. You are fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes. A great host. Show is great. Listen to his show.
Absolutely. 95.5.
One mic.
Hey! Shelley Winter Show, ladies and gentlemen, live, local, topical, and relevant, my friends. We are here till 8:30 tonight, so let's get right to it, my brothers and my sisters, and all of my peoples. Rest in peace, Jesse Jackson. He passed away today, as many of you already heard. And if you haven't heard, Jesse Jackson, the great Jesse Jackson, passed away today at 84 years old, my friends. So I want to, we have Robert Patillo, good friend of mine, but he also worked with Jesse Jackson for many years. He's going to come on the next segment to tell us some stories and tell us about Jesse Jackson and what he meant to him and so many. But I wanted to start off by telling you the relation, not the relationship, it wasn't, because, you know, I've met him many, many, many times in my life, but it didn't have a relationship, right? That's a bad word. But my history, I guess, personal history with Mr. Jackson. So, of course, when I was in college, I was a freshman in 1983 when he announced in November that he was running for president in 1983. Come around to 1984, spring of 1984, I'll never forget, they had a group of people, students on the Syracuse campus that were volunteering to help Mr. Jackson, Reverend Jackson at that time, win the New York primary because he was running for president. I remember them coming up to me and asking me, saying, Shelley, do you want to help? Do you want to volunteer? And I remember saying back then, oh, you know, America's never going to hire an African-American for president or a minister. That was my thought back then. I was young. And I wasn't really interested in politics. And quite honestly, none of the women that were asking me to volunteer were necessarily, you know, the fine women. So I declined. But I was young and stupid. And he rallied the country. He built the grassroots organization that Bernie used, that Barack used, that many other outside the mainstream party apparatus used. Trump used it in many ways. This outside of the party apparatus. That's what Jesse Jackson did for politics in this country. And then I went through a period of time when I became, when I got out of school and started working in corporate America. I worked at Ebony Magazine, and he helped me. Mr. Jackson helped me several times. He helped me get clients from corporations by writing letters saying, hey, African Americans are buying your product. Why aren't you advertising? And he would write these letters, not for me personally, but for John Johnson, who was the publisher and founder of Ebony Magazine. And many of those clients became mine at a certain time. Those agencies that I worked with in those early days started meeting with me. I would call them over and over and over and over again and try and get meetings with these agencies. And they would usually tell me, we don't need Ebony Magazine. We can get African Americans and People and Sports Illustrated. Mr. Jackson would help Mr. Johnson. They worked together to put pressure on these corporations to advertise to the very people who should be buying your products. And that helped me in my early days in advertising sales. Skip ahead to the corporate. And now, about this time, I started to think this was wrong, to put pressure on a McDonald's or a Ford Corp or Ford Motor Company or Toyota Motor Company or Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola. I thought it was wrong to basically extort these companies into hiring and training and getting ownership and providing ownership opportunities in the supply chain to African Americans. It's like, oh, this is not right. And I went through that period that all of us go through in your mid-20s where you think the old-timers don't know what they're doing. Oh, these old preachers, they don't know how to get freedom. If I was, you become more Malcolm X than Jesse Jackson. You become more Marcus Garvey than Martin Luther King. And you get mad and you call them names. You said, oh, they don't know what they're doing. They're only enriching a few. But then with age comes wisdom. And if you're like me, you realize, whoa, Jesse had to do what he had to do. Many people complained about it. Many people said it was wrong, but he had to do what he had to do because these corporations weren't going to make the changes on their own. Steve Ewing up at Cobb Parkway, Ewing Ford, the Ford dealership up there. He got into the into the dealer manufacturer's training with Ford because of a Jesse Jackson. Earl Graves with Pepsi. The family, family that owned WBLS in New York. All of these families, all across the country. Carl Weir here at Coca-Cola. I can name the names. I was there. I watched it happen. Jesse Jackson started that. And you can say what you want to say, but if you're dealing with a corporation in a country that's just going to take your money and never give you any ownership opportunities, you have to put pressure on them in the only way you can by telling your people not to buy it. And that's what he did. I used to think it was wrong until, with age came wisdom. And I realized it's the only way to happen. And here's the thing. Many people will say, well, Shelley, it's only one or two people. No, those one or two people started businesses that hired hundreds of people. And those hundreds of people had children that went to college on the basis of those businesses created at the pressure put on these corporations by Jesse Jackson. That is the legacy. That is the economic empowerment that he fostered. And that is how I will remember him. And that is why I cheer for his life. I was mad at him for a time, but I was young and stupid. There are many people right now I see on Facebook talking about old rumors and old conspiracy theories. I don't know if they're true or not. But for me, the economic part created tens of thousands of millionaires, which in turn created tens and tens of thousands of businesses, which in turn created millions of middle-class families where they had stable jobs, stable careers, made great money, put kids through college. Those kids went to college. They got married. They had children. And now all of those entities that came out of Jesse Jackson's economic pressure that he put on these corporations now have grandchildren who are going to great colleges living in Johns Creek, Jersey, Connecticut, suburbs in Michigan, and all over the country, and upper middle class families that came from Jesse Jackson. That we can never take away from him. That should be your focus. Now, if you don't want to focus on that, you can focus on other things. You could focus on the fact that Jesse Jackson got Lieutenant Robert Goodman out of Syria by himself. Ronald Reagan, the great Ronald Reagan, said it would never happen. When he came back, the first place he was called to, the White House, where he shook hands with Ronald Reagan. George W. Bush was there. Louis Farrakhan was there. And Robert Goodman was a free man from Syria because Jesse went and got him in the middle of the '84 presidential election. He negotiated Fidel Castro for 22 American prisoners. When America couldn't do it, Jesse went to Cuba and got 22 people out of jail. So all you patriots need to know that. All of you, America First, needs to know that Jesse went to Cuba and got 22 American prisoners and 26 Cuban political prisoners. In Iraq, he met with Saddam Hussein to get released dozens of foreign nationals who were being used as human shields, several of which were Americans. Yugoslavia, remember that? Remember that we were caught up in that in '99 with Clinton? Milosevic released 3 U.S. soldiers captured by the Kosovo border. Why? Because Jesse went. Jesse went and got them. You don't want to remember that because you're too lazy to look it up. Gambia, 2012, he secured the release of 2 Americans from a Gambian prison. International stage, he was seen as a stand-up, honest broker and negotiator for America. Now, the media at that time, I remember, especially the conservative media, but the mainstream media as well, would have convinced you that the only reason these people, these presidents, these dictators in many cases, let Jesse out of jail, let these prisoners out of jail at the behest and the urging and the negotiation power and prowess of Jesse Jackson is because they wanted to make the president or the American government look bad. Maybe. But it worked because he got the people home. Rest in peace, Mr. Jackson. And I appreciate you. I appreciate the times that we did see each other, we did speak. I appreciate the times we came across each other at a black tie dinner and we got to talk for a couple minutes. Then we stood there and looked at the fine women go by. Yes, we can admit that we did that because we're men. I appreciate you, sir. And I apologize for being mad at you for those years when I was young and dumb. The Shelley Winter Show. We'll be right back.
Born in a 3-room house, bathroom in the backyard, slop job by the bed, no hot and cold running water. I understand. Wallpaper used for decoration? No. For a windbreaker? I understand. I'm a working person's person. That's why I understand you, whether you're black or white, I understand work. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I had a shovel programmed for my hand. My mother, a working woman. So many days she went to work early, with runs in her stockings. She knew better, but she rolled runs in her stockings so that my brother and I could have matching socks and not be laughed at school. I understand. At 3 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day, we couldn't eat turkey because Mama was preparing somebody else's turkey at 3 o'clock. We had to play football to entertain ourselves. And then around 6 o'clock, she would get off the Alta Vista bus and we would bring up the leftovers and eat our turkey, leftovers, the caucus, the cranberries, around 8 o'clock at night. I really do understand. Every one of these funny labels they put on you, those of you who are watching this broadcast tonight in the projects, on the corners, I understand. Call you outcast, low down, you can't make it, you're nothing, you're from nobody, subclass, underclass. When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. I am somebody. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody. I may be young, but I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be small, but I am somebody.